So maybe the biggest talking point left here before we start talking about on the field. When is Billy fired? When we hired Billy Napier in 2021 after the Samford game, he was someone that we knew would take some time. Even in his introductory press conference, Billy said, Gator fans, you're probably going to get upset with me. This is going to be a long rebuild. But I don't think many of us expected it or wanted it to be this long. In the modern age of college football, you have Sonny Dykes at TCU keeping players like Max Duggan, Quentin Johnston on their team, and leading them to the national championship game in your first season. Then you have a coach like Billy Napier, who in his first game beats a top 10 future Pac-12 champion in Utah. I mean, where's Utah now? Don't ask me, but so no matter if you said, hey, you're going to get mad at me, you build up all that hype by beating Utah, that it doesn't matter that you said it's going to be a long rebuild. You can see you have the team. There was an obvious talent on this team. Anthony Richardson, future of top 5 pick in the NFL draft. You go through that season. The next game he plays, loses to Kentucky, game we should not have lost. We go up 7-0 in that game. And then the team just duds out. They kind of quit on the game, it feels like. I remember I was at that game, and the team just looked slow. The team was just overconfident that they had won. You know, that's a rookie mistake right there. That's a rookie mistake. So it's like, hey, okay, we can brush that one off. We go next. Let's hope we do better in the next game. We do. And then Tennessee on the road. The last time we had lost to Tennessee would have been in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, where they had a 21-3 comeback in that game. Lose that game, the offense looks sharp. Then you lose to Georgia. Then there's a point. College Station 2022. I believe the game was November 9th. Maybe November 11th, actually. It was my birthday weekend. I went to that game. First half, back and forth game. You have two sloppy, hurt teams. Then the second half, the Gators win it 17-0 in the second half. They shut out A&M. 45-20 or something was the score. Like, hey, that was a very impressive second half. Next week, we play a very beatable team in South Carolina. We beat that South Carolina team 38-6. That one touchdown being a fake punt. That's Beamer ball, if you know what I mean. Now, I believe at this time, the Gators were then sitting at 6-4, with their next two games being Vanderbilt, a team that before this season, everybody has listed as a guaranteed win, and a rival FSU, who is getting hot, but definitely a very winnable game. We go to Nashville. AR throws for like 400 yards in that game. Have some injuries. I believe Ricky Pearsall, future first-round pick wide receiver, was out that game. But lose 31-21. That's just something Billy can't do. You just can't lose to Vandy after playing maybe 6 of the best quarters of football that Florida has played since maybe the Urban Meyer days. Like, both the offense and defense were playing 10 out of 10. Then we go to FSU. AR, we lose that game by 1 score. We have like 16 straight incompletions from Anthony Richardson when the run game was going perfectly fine. We lose that game. Then we already talked about that Oregon State game. All that madness happens. We lose 30-30. Coming into year 2, you know what? Okay. He has more of his own players. More Billy Napier's crap happens. Lose to Utah. Beat McNeese. Then we have the game. Tennessee, where we think he's turned it around. Beat Tennessee. Oh, man, it's just like last year, except the opposite. I mean, maybe the opposite. We get blown out. We give up 296 yards to Ray Davis and Kentucky. We get blown out in that game. Then to play the game, the rest of the season, team plays inconsistent football. Personally, at the end of last season, I was on the end of that fire Billy Napier. We had the number 3 recruiting class last year going into the Georgia game. We end up finishing, I think, like 18th, if I'm not mistaken. Everything was just showing no bueno. Then we get to this season. We all saw what happened against Miami. Dud. Texas A&M. Dud. UCF, Mississippi State. We see how bad those teams are. And then Billy has one more chance. Tennessee team coming off a loss to Arkansas. He loses that game. We've already discussed it enough last night and tonight. So now we're here. Florida 3-3. When is Billy Napier fired? Well, it's not going to be today. It would have happened. It's not going to be tomorrow. Kentucky. I feel like this Tennessee game was really his last chance. But I'm also not the person who's going to have to end up paying $26 million to get Napier to leave. So he's going to get this Kentucky game. Lose this Kentucky game. We have a bye week. He's gone. I mean, I'd put it at very likely he's gone if he loses to Kentucky. Then I think this is like where Gator coaches go to die. Georgia. Second biggest rival on the schedule. Maybe the most talented team in the country. We've gotten blown out since we beat them in 2020. If he's not fired against Kentucky, let's say he beats them, get blown out by Georgia, he'll be lucky to survive that. Then the next week, we go on the road to Texas, get blown out by Texas, probably doesn't survive that. Say he doesn't get blown out in those games, we still have home against LSU, home against Ole Miss. Could be embarrassing losses if the teams quit, especially. Those teams could end up putting 40 points on us. Then we have FSU. I think it is a very, very, very small chance that Billy Napier makes it to the FSU game. His only chance of making it to the FSU game is beating Kentucky, which I'll give my predictions for that next. Not getting super embarrassed by Georgia. Then not getting, again, very embarrassed by Texas. Then he needs to pull an upset. I mean, to even get to a bowl game, he has to pull an upset against Ole Miss or LSU. Then he has to beat FSU to get to 6 wins. I don't think 6 wins does it. He needs to win his last 3 games to even have a job at UF next year. Put those odds at like 5%, if even that. So when do I think Billy Napier will be fired? I'm going to guess he is fired after the Georgia game.